Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, hi guys, thanks for having us. I'm Lynn Corey. We are the Client Service Coordinators. And I'm Lynn Corey. I have been with Sutter for 8 years, and I have been with the PSC, supporting the PSC, since September of 2012 when we first went live with Sutter North. So I've been here from the beginning. I work with North, all the offices in North, and I work with the offices in Roseville. So this are our coworkers.
And I am Katie Cooper. I've been with Sutter roughly 4 years. I've been on this team for over a year and a half. I do support all of Auburn, Family Medicine, Internal Medicine, Peds, all of Elk Grove, Family Medicine, Internal Medicine, and Peds, all of Amador, Internal Medicine, Family Medicine, and Peds, and also Greenback Oak.
I'm Audrey. I've been with Sutter for almost 3 years. I've been with Client Services for a little over a month now, so I'm the newbie. I support Downtown Family Medicine, Internal Medicine, and Peds, Natomas Family Medicine, and then I also help Katie with Elk Grove.
And just so you know, no pressure anybody, but we are actually recording this meeting because we finally remembered to record it on the last one. So
now they're going to feel the pressure.
I know. No pressure. So what do we do? So we are the single point person between here and the care centers, and conversely between the care centers and here. So if the PSC has information that they need relayed to us, they know how to reach out to us, and then we'll get it to the care centers. And likewise, did I say that the opposite? If the care centers need information relayed to the PSC, they know to reach out to each of us. We, in turn, get with you guys here and work together. So we round in the care centers twice a month, so each of us are at our respective care centers at least twice a month. Sometimes it's scheduled, sometimes we just show up. We kind of walk through the care centers. We may see the docs, we may see the MAs, we may see the front desk staff, we may see a regional manager on occasion or a service area director, depending on who's there. So we just kind of go through, see what's going on, get questions, ask, just gather information. We actually meet with the PSC leadership team here twice a month as well. As we hear things, we add to an agenda to kind of banter back and forth with, discuss. Jackie takes the notes for those meetings, and she's, as you know, she takes very good notes. So if you have an action item associated with that particular meeting, you better make sure that you've taken care of it because she'll call you out on it the next time. So we have great collaborative meetings that are going on with the PSC leadership right now. Well, we always do, but we meet with our associate director, our boss, every day. So we're out in the field doing whatever we need to do. And then between 4 and 5 o'clock, we meet with our associate director. Basically, the first question is, are there any fires anywhere that we need to know about? And I just realized that could be literally or figuratively, but anything that we need to address right away. That gives us a chance to go through and say, hey, you guys, I'm hearing this at North. Are you hearing this in Auburn? Are you hearing this downtown? If I'm hearing it somewhere, Katie's hearing it, and Aubrey says, oh, yeah, I did hear something about that, chances are pretty good that something's going on, right? So we have a nice wave, just a very tight-knit group, and we're actually constantly working with each other to communicate and see what's going on. We have monthly huddles with SMF leadership, and this was done, we do a PowerPoint presentation once a month to the SMF leadership, and that was at the request of one of the service area directors. So basically we take that time to discuss items that are in queue, so things that we have identified as an issue, we know that it's something that we want to address, either a process improvement, an enhancement of some sort, and it's waiting to be finalized. We talk about those things. We talk about recent process improvements. We report on the total call volume, so the metrics associated with the call volume for that previous month. We also report on the IOL total, so that report that's on the SharePoint that talks about the IOLs. We report on that, the top 5 IOLs for the month. And then conversely, we also have been asked to report on what we're doing as a CSD team to address those issues that show up on that IOL report. And
that is why we are here. So like Lynn was saying, every single month we do review that IOL report in detail and review it with the care centers. And what we found is that this subgroup right here, the encounter documentation details insufficient to take action, has been one of the top 3 IOLs for about the past 8 months. So currently it does sit in one of the top 5 issues and has been. So what we're hoping by coming here and speaking to you guys is to get this IOL reason, this subgroup here, kind of off the top 5. So it would be awesome if it just wasn't on the top 5. But it's a two-way street. So we came here because we want to give you guys some feedback and insight in regards to what the care center experiences, but then we also want to get your feedback as to what you guys experience, barriers, challenges, things like that. So that is why we're here.
So just a little history. So in the olden days, when I first started working in a care center, this was how we took messages. And this is no joke. There's these little notepads that you took the message on. This is the doctor's computer, right, which was a big box at the time. And we would just stick these little sticky notes on the doctor's computer, and he would walk into the office and see what needs to be done. If it was a high priority message, we would just basically stand outside the exam room door, wait for him to come out, and then we'd flag him down and say, hey, we've got this issue that we need to talk about. In this case, Beyonce thinks she's pregnant again, so she needs a blood test really soon. And then Barbara Streisand also has a sore throat. She's got a concert coming up tomorrow, so it's really important that you get back to her. So honestly, this is what it looked like, right? That's from my experience in the care center. Now, today, electronic health records looks much different. This is an actual snapshot of an in-basket that the MAs use. So all of the encounters that you guys route to the MA pool, this is what one pool looks like. And just as a reminder, this is only a portion of what the pool looks. This is just a snapshot of it. So the high priorities are here with the red arrows. You can see there's all kinds of categories. The MAs can sort by any one of these categories if they want. Reason for call is probably the first thing they look at, right? So fortunately, on this little snippet, we don't see anything that says leave message. So as you can see, they're looking at these. They're trying to sort by these reasons for calls. Does leave message help them at all? Not really. So we're really happy there's no leave message here. So this one, there's like medication requests. We've got a new medication. We've got medication problems. And then I know there was one other medication I can't see. But we can kind of sort by the medication that they can take some action from there. So just be mindful of those reasons for call. Please make sure that you're using the most appropriate one. We did also confirm with the care centers that just like you guys have metrics and goals and targets, the goal for the care centers is 31 encounters in their in-basket left at the end of the day. So I've got Roseville Family Medicine that at one time had 400 in their in-basket. So nobody's going home that day, right? They've got 400 messages. So ideally we want to get these messages in and out as quickly as we can and on to the next action. So old process, new process.
So Lynn just showed you what their in-basket looks like or what it could look like. So I'm going to ask you guys this little question, get your feedback. So let's say you route this message. This is a message that we see frequently in charts. So let's say you route this message to that MA pool, and let's say the reason for call is question. Question, reason for call, and then this is the message that's sitting in there. What do you think the MA is going to do with this encounter? Do you think it's an actionable encounter or a non-actionable encounter? What do you think they're going to do when they open this?
Not enough information.
Go ahead.
Not enough information.
So is it actionable or not actionable? It is actionable or it's not actionable?
Non-actionable.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Yeah.
Who else said incomplete? Everybody, right? Everybody said it's incomplete? Yeah. We're at the end of the day.
So yes, this is not actionable. The MA is going to, one, she's going to see that it's a question. It's not a very specific reason for call. She's going to open this. She's going to see, okay, the patient has a question about their medication. I can't do anything with this. I can't go to the doctor and consult with them because I don't know what the question is and I don't know what the medication is. We understand sometimes the patient doesn't want to tell you the question. We also understand sometimes the patient doesn't know what their medication is. So if that was the circumstance in this, an appropriate response or encounter would be, patient has questions about their, maybe they don't know the medication, but what's the medication for? Diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol meds? That would help the MA a little bit, just getting a little bit more detail, right? Using your soft skills, getting a little bit more detail from the patient. And then you could say patient didn't want to further discuss, patient didn't want to disclose what the question was, right? That would be appropriate. But yeah, having the question and having the medication helps tremendously for the office.
So what Katie just gave us an example of is incomplete, non-actionable documentation. So what does that look like when we have that? We have additional calls to patients, which causes rework. This is the rework happening right here. We have additional calls to the PSC. So you guys are getting irate patients calling you back. You didn't even file the original one, and so now you're getting the calls, which causes more rework. We have phone tag, so we may have the care center staff calling the patient, and they're rooming patients, and the patients are calling back, so that causes more rework. And we have additional work for the care center staff, so that also causes rework, which ultimately is a delay in patient care, which makes us sad and mad, or as I like to call it, sad mad. So what happens here is the patients may be calling you, the care center may be frustrated, IOLs may be filed. You know, overall, I think it makes everyone involved, including the PSRs who have the toughest job, you know, pretty upset. So, what does complete actionable documentation look like? Well, we have a one-call resolution. We have a timely response. And then we have happy patients, doctors, and PSRs. This is that. Everyone's happy. Like, that's Rudy at the end. He has blonde hair.
On the weekend.
Yes. That'll work here.
So we wanted more of an excuse to give out chocolate, so we have this fun analogy regarding camping. So if you're going to go on a trip, you need all necessary supplies, right, when you're packing for your trip, or in this case, going on a camping trip in order to have a successful and fun trip. Kind of like when you're out an encounter, right? We want to make sure you have all the necessary information and details when you're out it so that everyone's happy. So what are we going to need for this trip? We need our who, which would be our tent. Miss Anna, thank you. We need our sleeping bag, air mattress, which would be our what. We're going to need our food and water, which would be our when. And then we'll need our where, which is our light. And then we need our why, which will be our fire and our stove. So just keeping in mindset of these 5 W's will really help you guys capture all the information.
Oh, wait, so and when you go on a successful camping trip with me, you have to have this cool little backpack, this little pool pack thing filled with chocolate. You notice that the food was a s'more, right? And the closest we could come to s'mores was Hershey chocolate. So it's a little stretch, but anyway, I got candy.
All right, so a helpful tip from the Learning Center training guide is always provide complete and full sentences, including appropriate grammar and complete spelling, or I'm sorry, correct spelling. Anything
Anyone?
might be misspelled?
Anyone?
There's a P, not P. Yes, there's a P missing and incomplete. So for those of you on the phone line, Vanna, aka Lynn, just showed us incomplete was misspelled, missing the P, and just put a red squiggly under there, like you would do a spell check. You click that, and you can spell something correctly. The other thing that we want to watch out for is abbreviations. We need you to completely spell out the word, and the feedback we've been getting from all of our presentations in the last, 4 days, is that the care center staff does the same thing. So you guys may have ran into abbreviations or medical terminology in your encounters. Please, please, please route those to your supervisors. We need to know that. Just like you guys are held to a certain standard, they're held to the same standard. So they can receive a reverse IOL, which gives us an opportunity to coach with them. It goes to us, then we talk to their site supervisor. Sometimes we're real time in front of them while we're rounding saying, hey, we need you to work on this. So that is really helpful. So please, please, route to your supervisors.
These guys.
Yes.
Great. So smart phrases. Some of these faces I recognize have been here for quite a while. So we started this with smart phrases about 4 years ago. The idea was to capture the information that was needed for an encounter. We started hearing from the care centers that we weren't quite getting what we needed. So Angelica, who some of you may know, assembled a group of people from different areas. We had Davis, we had Sac Peds, we had Auburn, we had North, we had PSC representation, and we wanted to just make sure. So we took a 6-hour chunk of the day, and we went through each one of those administrative smart phrases. We went anything, if you click yes, this is what you get, and is this appropriate? If you click no, this is what you get. We consolidated some. The T appointment request smart phrase now includes an option for a pre-op appointment, which it didn't before. The referral smart phrase was beefed up quite a bit. If you need a foot x-ray, it now asks you, I think it says which body part, and then it says right or left. Because if you need an x-ray of your foot, we've got to know which one in order to put an order in. So those things were created traditionally by the MAs, and they gave us the input on what's needed. So please trust those smart phrases. Those are very deliberately created with the MAs in mind so that they could make those next processes actionable. I would ask that you stay away from NAs. We hear that there are some areas that we may need to look at those smart phrases. But as the NA, as far as the care center is concerned, you didn't ask. So the patient doesn't know indicates that the patient doesn't know. They don't have a preference indicates that the patient doesn't have a preference. Please just give some information. Give yourselves credit. You guys are asking the questions. When we listen to the calls, you're asking the questions, but the care center doesn't see that. And all they're seeing is that it's NA and it's not actionable for them. So Ooh, NA is also not actionable. Oh, I just realized that now. Oh my God, I could have been using that. So trust the smart phrases, okay? And if you guys find something, I think somebody in our last one mentioned there was a couple of things on smart phrases, so we're going to go back and look at a couple of those and maybe make some modifications. But trust those and use them, please.
And then again, as I previously mentioned, when you're using free text or that administrative phrase, please keep in mind those 5 W's. They'll really help you capture all the information. So the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why.
Yes.
And as Lynn previously stated, also we do round with the care centers every single week. So these are just some common themes that we've seen and heard while rounding, and feedback we've gotten from the care centers regarding incomplete documentation. So I just want to share it with you, some common themes. Run-on sentences, misspelled words, lack or insufficient details, and some of the common themes we see are messages like this: patient would like to speak to Dr. Jones. What about? And this message doesn't get to Dr. Jones immediately, right? You guys know you route it to the MA pool. So the MA looks at it first. So it would be helpful to know, did the patient not want to disclose this information? What was the actual information that they wanted to speak to the doctor about? Because maybe the MA could just call the patient right then and there and answer the question. Patient has questions regarding their medication. We saw that one earlier, so I already touched on that. Knowing the question, knowing if the patient's not going to give you the information refused, or if the patient doesn't know their med or what it's for, also very helpful. And then last, contact information, incorrect or missing. And then Lynn actually has an example of this with her North Care Center.
Yeah, so in preparation for this meeting, I was going through my care centers, and I was asking at 460, and she just happened to have 3 encounters that she'd received in the last 24 hours that were missing contact information. One of them was the patient was looking for some DME supplies. One of them was a random pharmacy that we don't always see. The other one was diabetic supplies. And when I got there, she was actually Googling, trying to get the information, trying to find the phone number for the pharmacy. While the doctor's waiting for her to put a patient in the room, right, I'm saying, well, I can probably listen to the call to see if there's a phone number mentioned in the call, or maybe I can check IC Business Manager to see where the call originated, to see where the call came from. But this is a lot going on when we just need that contact information. So please, please, please remember to populate that contact information. We've also validated that it needs to be in the contact field, not necessarily in the body of the message. And somebody else said you have to hit accept, otherwise it erases.
Yeah, one of the leads.
Please, 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 contact information.
Yeah. So we gave you guys some insight and background as to what the care centers experience, what they see, what we see. But this is, like I said, a two-way street. So we're not just here for them. We're also here for you. So we want to know some challenges or barriers that you guys have regarding capturing relevant and pertinent information. This is our last presentation. We've been doing this for 4 days, so we've heard some common themes. Some common challenges and barriers we've heard is that a patient doesn't want to talk to you. They want to talk to their doctor, right? So we've heard that. Patient doesn't have the information. They don't know. They're not sure. All valid. You can't force a patient to tell you. You can control what they know and don't know. So as long as you're documenting this, that is great. Another one, a patient is rushing you. So they're in the car and they want to just leave a message quickly, and you don't even have time to get all of the questions you need answered. Again, patient hung up, right? Document stuff like that. So what are some other ones besides, the patient not wanting to talk to you, just wanting to talk to the office, not wanting to have to deal with Utah, not knowing information, or them being in a rush? What are some other,
The care center not leaving an encounter, but leaving a message.
We've been hearing that a lot too, which is the first time, I'm going to be honest, which is the first time we've really been hearing that it's an issue. In this forum, we've actually just started to hear that. So,
but we've heard
every presentation has been brought up. Mm-hmm. What are some other ones? Sorry, I'm like.
I know for a third party, sometimes they don't have a number to call back.
We just heard that in the last presentation. Yes.
Several times where I don't have a callback number.
Or they say, and then they said they don't have a contact number or information. They said just have them call the patient.
Yep,
right?
I've heard that too.
Okay, so we've heard that as well.
On the
those third parties that call in that want to just ask the office if they need supplies, and they're like, we need to talk to the office person if they're short on supplies. Sometimes they won't give us a callback number because they're like,
Yeah, they hang up and then they just.
Yeah, that's almost sounds like a cold call, yeah.
So I'm like, well, I can send a staff message or I'll send a message, and I'm like, I don't have a phone number to put in there for you to call back. They're like, oh, we'll just hang up and call back later then.
Yeah, that's
okay. Well, it's gonna be.
That's telemarketing.
You'll get this.
But there's also a workflow for the non-clinical.
Yeah, third party kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
Just some other barriers or challenges you guys face.
No? We've also heard, just so you know, we've heard language barriers, challenges with understanding certain dialects, certain
Some cultural
differences.
Mm-hmm.
So the plan is for us to take this information, just as we've gathered the information from the care centers and brought it here, the plan is for us to take this information, compile it, summarize it, and then get it back to the care centers as well. We really want this to be collaborative and ongoing, so this is great information. Cool, thank you. Nothing else?
It'll come.
I know. We have a question and answer. We left 20 minutes, so we're kind of blasting through here. We want to make sure we have 20 minutes for any kind of question at the end.
So prior to coming here, we did round with our care centers and asked if they could provide us with examples of complete documentation, actionable, and incomplete, non-actionable documentation. So we have 5 examples here that we want to show you, and we would like your feedback. We'll bribe you with chocolate. We would like your feedback as to whether it's actionable or non-actionable. So keeping the 5 whys in mind, for example 1, Lynn, would you like to read this one? Provider to provider.
So Peter from Sutter Care at Home called and advised the patient's new start of care date will be Friday, February 24th, which is 1 day outside of the 48-hour window. I should know this by heart by now. Yeah. Patient doesn't want to be seen tomorrow. The patient was referred on the 21st, which is within the window. Caller needs Dr. Sobel to sign the new order that's being faxed over and shows the start of care date is February 24th per the patient's request. Peter's callback number is? Actionable?
Non-actionable.
Actionable.
Woo! Who said actionable? Everybody, right? Everybody said actionable, right?
You just sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Take out an aisle.
Yeah, I only go for it.
So yeah, that was definitely actionable.
You're taking your own?
Example 2, Audrey, do you want to read this one?
Sure. Example number 2 is patient's calling, request to speak to Colleen, states it is an emergency, just needs to ask her a question. Patient did not want to discuss, please advise, thank you. Is it actionable or not actionable?
Actionable.
Actionable.
Okay.
This is actually a trick question. It was inaccurate information, and what the actual message said was, patient's calling, request to speak to Colleen, states it is not an emergency, just needs to ask her a question. Patient did not advise, thank you. So just that one little word difference here, not and emergency, changed the encounter completely. And actually, Lynn may have some feedback on that because this happened in her care center, and she had to deal with this one. Lynn?
So I got a frantic call from the care center saying, oh my God, we just got this message saying that it's an emergency. We tried to call the patient back. There's no answer. We've called the police department to go out and do a welfare check. They're on their way. Can you please listen to the call and see if the caller gave any information? Are they going to the hospital? Can we figure out what's going on? So I listened to the call, and sure enough, the caller said it's not an emergency. I had to call the care center back and say, can we call the police and tell them that this is not? So it was not. It was not one of my better days. So just a little proofread.
Proofread, double check, triple check.
That was real, by the way, just so you know. That was real.
Yes, these
are all real. These are all real. Yeah.
So example 3.
All right, example number 3. Patient's wife called in requesting to speak with the PCP regarding a program she may be placing patient at a laser program. Wife would like to further discuss with the PCP. Thank you. Is this actionable or not actionable?
Not. That's laughing. You get 2 candies. 2 for that one.
So if you hear me trying to catch my breath, it's because it's a run-on sentence for 1, and then we're missing the what, where, and when. What is a laser program? Are we lasering off the fat? Are we lasering off laser goes in the sky? We don't know. So
Was that you?
I did lasering staff because that's what I was laser.
That makes it even better.
Oh, you like crackle? Sorry.
But, this is something the clinician has discussed previously with the patient. We have no information here, so.
It's funny.
All right, so example 4. Patient's mother called and requested that the patient be screened for STDs and HIV as well as a drug screen. Mother stated that both her and the patient suspect that they had been exposed to people that abuse drugs. Mother stated that this has been mentioned to Dr. Loomis in the past, but the doctor had not examined the patient for this. Mother was advised that for something like this, the doctor would need to see the patient, then order any appropriate labs. Mother began to state that the patient seemed like she had arthritis and was once again told to schedule an appointment. Then the mother hung up. Apparently, she just wanted labs done. So this was routed to the MA pool. There is a little bit of background to this, but this was routed to the MA pool. Do you think the MA was able to provide Dr. Loomis with all actionable details because of this? Is it actionable or not actionable?
I don't think so.
Seems like not.
It seems like there's a lot of information there, but
It's missing like maybe what kind of drugs they were exposed to kind of give more information.
how old is the patient?
Oh, she's like 8.
The piece.
And what symptoms might, if they are exhibiting any symptoms or not.
Okay, you let them off the hook.
No.
So like, here's
It's just so interesting because
It
each
is.
group has a
Arthritis.
completely different perspective. When we show these encounters, literally each group has a different take or answer, so I find it very interesting. So this was actually shown to me by one of the head MAs at Auburn Pediatrics. She gave this to me as a kudos to the PSR that routed her this message. Why? This mother was difficult. She was not being very redirectable by you guys. She had called multiple times to the PSC just trying to get labs for different things. So this PSR was actually able to capture everything that the mother had stated. So the MA went straight to the doc with this, and the doctor was able to contact the patient's mother and then stop her inappropriate behavior. So they said that this was complete actionable, and the PSR that routed this actually got kudos.
very nice.
So yeah. Last example, and then we'll move to Q&A section for you guys. So last example, patient called in to check on what's going on with medication. Told him it was pending for doctor. He said okay. Is this?
No.
Okay, I'm seeing more giggles. I'm assuming that means not actionable. What's missing? Medication.
All right,
There's no medication listed. What medication is it that's pended? I know that, reviewing calls are needed inside the patient charts. I have not seen a chart where a patient only has one medication in their chart, nor have I ever seen one medication pending at a time when they do have multiple medications, right? So also after further research of this specific encounter, we found that it took a total of 6 touches to resolve. The goal is 2, and it also took 4.5 hours to resolve. So that was a delay in patient care, 4.5 hours. And if you can see at the top, the encounter was routed at 12:34. 4.5 hours after that is closing time at the care center. So we could just imagine this patient's frustration trying to get in and get those meds filled on a Friday afternoon, right, before the weekend.
And we're sure it's Norco, even though we don't know, we're just sure it's Norco.
Right. But the patient probably wouldn't have got it filled anyways because of the time frame.
Maybe.
Possibly. This was previously, it looks like it wasn't the initial request. It looks like this is a follow-up. And I don't know when the medication had originally been submitted or requested. It doesn't say, just as for the one that's pending.
Question on it.
So,
because it was done through the T administration, T admin, why would they do that under T admin if it's regarding medication?
Well, that's a really good question.
I'm just wondering.
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know.
Because they didn't ask what the medication was.
Because I really want to do T admin all in. What are you looking at? I don't know. I do new patient most of the time, but when I do those, I'm like, do I want to do T admin? No, it's regarding medication. So, anyway, just wondered.
Yeah, because if they use the smart phrase, they would be prompted for the medication, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that does end end the presentation in regards to encounter documentation, but we want to open up this forum for the next, hopefully we have 20 minutes. We do. We want to open up the forum for the next 20 minutes for you guys to ask us any questions. It could be in regards to the preference pages, workflows, clarifying questions. If you want to know anything about care centers, feel free.
We don't get an opportunity to sit with you guys uninterrupted when in between, when you're not taking phone calls. So this is really prime time for us to be able to interact with you guys. Ask your questions. What do you want to know? Are you curious about anything? What do you got? What?
We normally have a bunch of questions. Questions.
Yeah. You want me to start? Okay, I'll start. So there's a recent change to the phone tree, the IVR. So traditionally, historically, the two types of calls that you guys have transferred to the care centers have been the provider to provider, if the provider needs the doc pulled from the room, and if the patient's waiting at the pharmacy. So the SMF decided that because, for efficiency purposes, they were going to skim those calls off coming from the PSC and go directly to the care centers, right? So what we're finding is that the patients that get to the care center, the two prompts, are you a patient, press 1. If you're a provider, press 2. The patient's pressing 1, and then the next question is this about your medication? And the next question is, are you at the pharmacy? If the patient says yes to all those, it directs them directly to the care center. Likewise, if the caller chooses the provider option, they're getting directed to the care center. So what's happening is the care center is getting a lot of calls that they're not used to getting, right? So when you call, so the SMF has actually given them permission, if we will, to not give their names when they know that the call is coming from the IVR. What we're trying to avoid, and what we know is happening, is that we don't want the patients to get to necessarily understand that they're getting directly to the care center and figure out that they've got a way to bypass everything. So they're not necessarily announcing their name. So when you guys are calling, you're finding that they're not necessarily announcing their name either. So that's one of the take-backs that we have. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we share with the care centers. There is supposedly a way that they can differentiate that on the phone, on their phones, that they know what's coming from the IVR versus what's coming from the PSC, and they should be managing that appropriately. So, and you might hear also some people said that the patients are saying, oh, I didn't know how I got transferred to you. So just if you guys are hearing that, we want to just give you an FYI. And did that prompt any questions? Because we have more. We'll go. But.
So now we're getting the rude patients because they know they got the office and then they transferred back to Utah, and obviously they're mad at us. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I have no idea what happened or what we pushed. But
And the care centers are saying, oh, you've reached the designated pharmacy line or you've reached the designated provider line.
Yeah.
So the care centers are trying to manage those. So if you're getting those calls back to you and the patient's not at the pharmacy, then they picked the wrong prompt.
Yeah.
So just an FYI there, you guys may want to figure out a way to manage that internally. But if they get to you and it's a patient and they're not at the pharmacy, they've chosen the wrong prompt.
Yeah. That's good to know, because I know I hear a lot about, I pushed this and I can't ever get a live person through this new system. It stinks. And it's like,
I've always gotten a live person through that.
I've heard a lot of people say that since they upgraded it or whatever they did.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like it. So now they're mad at us, and I'm like, I have nothing to do with it.
How long have we got it now?
Months.
Well, they said they were going to work on it.
It first went live back in July, and then it was a slow rollout for each care center. So the last rollout happened in September, I believe. So now all SMF, it went in stages.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys, soups, you correct me if I'm wrong, but in one of the huddles with the other soups, they were saying that you guys can, if you guys have those scores, what are those scores called? Help me. Thank you. You guys could appeal those if you get transferred calls.
Yep.
So if you're finding that you have irate patients who are mad that they got transferred back, that's not your fault, right? You're the last person in line. You weren't that first person. You didn't put them on hold. You didn't make them push the wrong option. So I would direct you guys to speak to your supervisors about that. Yeah.
With North New Patient Coordinators, so are they ever going to have an IVR that will direct their new patients to them directly instead of them coming to us?
Probably not.
I mean, it's few and far between.
Yeah, probably not. I'm just gonna be honest, probably not.
Yeah, I figured.
It's one more prompt that they really, yeah.
You ever give new patients back to us, or give
No,
to us?
don't ever have that.
You know, so just an FYI, so the North New Patient Coordinators, they sign their patients up for MHO, and they get the medical record. So the docs don't necessarily accept every patient that they have requests from. If they look at the medical record and the patient's a drug seeker, they may not feel that they have a good fit to offer to those. So they may not be able to make an appointment for that patient. So there's a lot more to it than
It's good to know.
yeah.
I'm fine with that.
That cuts a lot back on
I feel bad because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, are you new? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me get you the other new patients. They have coordinators further up.
Any challenges with the care center staff at all?
I get put on hold a lot from North for long extensive time.
When you have a triage call?
No, just when the message says call back line for whatever action's needed.
That's been the biggest one that I've heard for triage calls.
That they're
Like they just pick up and say, please hold.
Yeah, they don't give you a second.
yeah.
I
So,
just jumping
and
in.
Connie, I will tell you that Connie is the regional manager for North, is very engaged, and the expectation of her staff is that they take those calls. And her directive to them actually is take the call, even if the action on the part of the PSR is wrong. Take the call, and then we'll report it as an IOL. But she's saying take the call. And I've also been in those care centers, and the phones are ringing off the hook. Those doctors work at the hospital there in Yuba City, so the hospital's calling all the time. I sat there one day trying to listen to the phone calls. I'm like, oh my God, and 30% of them come from the PSC. They're coming from everywhere else.
So can you explain a little bit about, just so everyone gets kind of like a perspective, of what those North offices are like, you know, the facility? Because I think a lot of PSRs don't understand their situation. It's different than most of the offices, you know.
So North doctors, there's no managed care in North. So those doctors, and it's a different environment. It's just a different environment. They will see those patients. Tanya Hoffman in Brownsville will quadruple book patients there, right? So they'll double, triple book, whereas some of the other offices, not a chance, right? It's a different environment, it's a different feel. Audrey went with me to Brownsville, and trying to help people understand that Brownsville does not have a pharmacy. Okay, there's no pharmacy at Brownsville.
We don't even have cell phone service.
No, they don't have.
There's trees, everyone's serious. Like, you're over there, it's like, like, we better not get lost. I'm like, that's why we had to ride together, because Lynn was afraid I would get lost, because I wouldn't be able to use my Google Maps, because there's no cell phone.
Print out the directions before you leave, because you're going to lose cell service. And so they actually, they literally have a gal at a pharmacy in Marysville, which is right next to Yuba City, fill all the prescriptions. She drives the medications up to the Brownsville office every day, and then she's there from 12 to 5 or 1 to 5 to dispense the meds. Right? So the patients come back, but so it's a totally different environment. Yeah. And those patients feel very well cared for, and that's why a lot of times you'll say, well, I just want to talk to the office.
Yeah.
And so does that answer that? Yeah.
Just because when I was in California a few years back, we went to the North offices, and I was just like, whoa, like, it doesn't even look like a doctor's office up here.
No, it looks like a little
literally,
cabin.
it looks like a cabin, and there's trees, and if you pass it, you would never even know that that's a care center. You would never even know. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
And you might not even know the answer. When you call the back line and you're like, this person really just doesn't want to talk to me, you know, I've told them this is our process. Do they actually try to reiterate that to the patient? Like, you can't just ask for us?
Because I say just stick it through.
Can you just
for North or for everywhere?
For
North.
everywhere.
So I'm sure different.
I would say that for the most part, the care centers I work for will say, talk to the PSC, please, because now you're putting extra work on me. I'm having to help this patient, and they are here to help.
Yeah.
Some of the more rural areas, like Amador, and I would throw North in there, I would be like, yeah, okay, patient. But those offices that are Elk Grove, especially Auburn, Roseville,
Downtown,
they're already getting tons of backline calls from the IVR. Elk Grove every day gets 80 calls from that IVR. 80 new calls now every single day. So they want the patients. They want the patients to go through the PSC. They are very thankful that you guys are here to answer the calls. There's some MAs up in Auburn who are from offices that didn't have a call center, and they said, we couldn't even get any work done because we were just attached to the phone. They're like, this is such a relief. This is so nice to work in an office that has this feature, and they feel so supported. So it's some offices, yes. Some offices that maybe have a lower volume don't see it as an issue. But I would say for the most part, they would direct the patient. Yeah. Same with the encounter. You know, if it says patient's refusing, that means it's going to go on the phone. What? It took me 3 hours to get back to you, to call you. If you would have told the rep initially what your issue was, I probably could have called you 3 hours ago. But I didn't have time, right? So I think most, yes.
The other one that I've seen is like our agents are calling the back office and someone will answer and say, well, there's nobody in here to help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And really the PSRs are just saying, well, could you let that patient know this? Because they're not going to listen to the agent.
So, Cindy, and that's one of the things that we want to take back. That's a common theme that we're hearing, too. Mm-hmm. And we, just like when we're in the care centers and they say, well, the PSC always does this.
You want examples?
Makes my hair stand. But we need examples. And you guys, the phone calls are all recorded. We've confirmed that if you're on a phone call and you go to transfer the call, the backline call is recorded. If you get pushback from that care center, please let your soup know. Let's get the call ID number. We'll take it to the care center and play it for the supervisor. We need to understand, they need to understand what the expectations of them are as well. And if your workflow says it's a warm transfer, they need to understand that their employer, SMF, determined that for that situation, it should be managed at the care center. So we need to be really diligent about getting those examples to your supervisors so that they can get out and let us know, and then we can get out to the care centers and have a little conversation. Because we do, and you know, what we need to know about it. So it's interesting. We've heard lots of common themes, and we are more than happy to take that back because we really need to want it to have a cohesive working relationship. Okay. Can I ask really quickly, supervisors, stay quiet. What's the current policy for the current workflow for a patient calling in late? They're going to be late.
They call the backline.
Everybody?
Backline.
Woohoo!
More chocolate.
Yeah. So honestly, I've been in the few care centers lately where they've said, oh, you know, the patient said that they were told it was okay to be 10 minutes late, and I said they're not saying that, and I listened to the call and I'm like, don't say it. Oh, they said it. So I just want to make sure. There's a few classes that we've had some mixed results, but this one was yay, perfect. Thank you. Do we have time for you to do?
Yeah, sure. As you guys know, I'm a newbie, so I've been here 5, 6 weeks. It's all starting to blur because it felt like we're at all these care centers. So part of being the new person means you get real on-the-job training. I was just thrown right into it, and they're like, well, the best way for you to learn is to round with Katie and Lynn. So that's what I've been doing, and we literally have gone to every single care center. And one of the observations, my takeaways from watching them and that I've learned is that we really are the advocates for you guys. I've watched Katie go on to offices and had different staff come up with different encounters saying, oh, I think this is an IOL. And Katie said, oh, okay, let me see that. And she looks through it and she's like, yeah, that's not my PSRs. Those aren't my PSRs. Those are actually staff here. So, and they're like, oh, okay. And Lynn, the thing that's great about Lynn is that one of the first things she did when I started training with her was she was like, okay, we're going to go to Roseville IM. So we go to Roseville IM. They have a designated conference room for her there because she's there several days a week. And they hand a stack of encounters, and what she does is she audits every encounter before she lets them file it as an IOL, because most of the times it's not an IOL. And so I got to do that. So much fun. And you just go through them. You know, we're pulling calls, we're listening to it. I mean, I think one of the inmates said, well, the PSR was so rude to me. So we go back and listen. I'm like, it was actually the inmate who was extremely rude the whole call. And I know that Lynn sat down with the regional manager as well as the site supervisor and just was playing call after call. And the regional manager was just like, you know, yeah, her face was just fell to the floor. And last week, I had the privilege of being able to round, not that I don't love being with you two, but I rounded alone finally. I was flying, it's free. So I was rounding in downtown IM, and I met every single doctor with the exception of one, all of the MAs, all of the front desk staff, and Sal, the site supervisor there, was taking around each person. And as we were rounding, MAs would come up and Sal, if you have any questions, or anything you want to ask Audrey, and they'd say, oh, well, I think this is an IOL. Sal would grab it before I had a chance to. And like, no, look at the workflow. That's not one. So it was great to see because, you know, even the site supervisors are advocating for you guys. They make it very clear you all are an extension of, you know, the care centers. And so that's something that we are really trying to implant in their heads. And I know it gives Lynn, Katie, and now myself great joy to play those calls back for them so they can hear it. And you know, a lot of times it's the perception, right? So they're not used to this. They're like, oh, it's the PSC, it's the PSC. But really it's the perception, and they may not know the workflow. We're dealing with MAs who have been in several different care centers, and they have their idea of how it should go, but that's not what the directive is from SMF, which is their leadership. So, you know, if you guys have anything, please, like, turn in those reverse IOLs. They're held to the same standard as you. They should be following the workflows. Get those to your supervisors because, you know, whether it's the site supervisor talking to them or even us in real time, we develop relationships with these MAs and these docs. And, you know, we will say to them, no, that's not one. I'm looking at one right now, and I'm like, okay, Dr. Norrie, you're not going to talk, all right, you know, because we're trying to build those relationships with them. But you guys are a team. We know how hard it is for you, and we want to make sure that we're all on the same playing field. Go ahead, Katie.
Oh, okay. Does anyone have any more questions, though?
Speaking of Rosalia, do they actually, because I swear they never answer their back line.
Yes.
And I have, like, there was one time it was a provider-to-provider call. I think it was someone from, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, and I didn't know what to do with that. I ended up just sending a high-priority message, but.
So Rosalia is one of those offices that they're staffing challenged, but they also have some other very, very specific challenges. And the reason that I was holding my hands up, I did play 10 calls with that regional manager. And the reason that I was able to do that is because some of you reported that the care centers were giving you pushback. Yeah. We were able to pull those calls. So I need to know that. Just like we need the specifics from them, I need the specifics from you. This is meant to be a two-way street here. The IOLs come to you guys. Our intent is to make sure that we are getting IOLs back to the care centers too. Not to be punitive, but we want to make sure they understand the workflows. I've spent 20 years in a care center, and I have my very specific ideas of the way I think things should be done. And MAs have worked 5 years here and 3 years here, and they've done things a certain way. They think it should be done the same way. What they don't understand is the workflow that their leadership has created designates it that it be done this way. It gives me great pleasure to walk into a care center when they tell me that something, well, this is an error, and I say, oh, well, let's look at the workflow. What does the workflow say? And I get this deer in the headlights look at it. I'm like, yes, let's get you access. Oh, I know you have access. So it's just level setting, and it's helping them understand they're accountable. They need to be following those workflows just like you guys are. One of the other things I wanted to call out is we had, when I was at Lincoln getting ready to come out, one of the staff said, oh, can you just see if you guys can get them a cheat sheet of common medical abbreviations? And I will tell you the hair on the back of my neck stood up because I knew where this was going. And I said, and why do we need that? And he said, well, because when we put the message in for them to relay to the patient, they're calling the back line because they don't know what it is. And I said, well, basically, the role of the PSR says that information is supposed to be in layman's terms. So if you're copying a message from a result note into a telephone encounter, that's your responsibility to translate that into a terminology that the PSR and the patients understand. And they went, oh, okay. So, what?
And I've had patients when they go on the My Health Online and they have that same complaint. I don't understand what this result means.
Right, yeah.
So it's going that way too.
Yeah. It is, and it's always, it is. But we really we want to be advocating on your behalf, truly. I mean, I think, and Audrey pointed out, it was unsolicited when that she said that at one of the first meetings, and I thought that was really nice. But we are out there. I mean, we're out there for you guys, and we have a great relationship with leadership here, and these guys reach out to us all the time. Hey, can you check on this, or can you check on this? And that's what we do, and that's what we're doing. So, and the other thing I wanted to say, and I forgot to say, I also will, we hear at the care centers, oh my God, they always do this, or they always do this. And I will go back and we'll look at that little IOL report that includes the call volume for each care center, and I'll go, oh, Roseville Pediatrics, so all 7,622 calls that we took for you for the month of September, we did that every time? And they're like, 7,000 calls? Yeah, they have no idea. So now there's a whiteboard outside Roseville Pediatrics, and the team lead at the and I just write the number the call volume number for the previous month in the upper quarter. Because they have no idea. They have no idea how many calls you guys take. Yeah. So, did I miss anything? So, really, seriously, any questions, anything? Preference pages, workflows?
Who designed that workflow that we have now with that orange background?
Oh,
yeah, I think that's cute.
I'm not sure we did that.
Let's blame Brian.
It just hurts my eyes.
It was like
beautiful.
Famous, but it
It's
was
beautiful, but because it's going from like just plain white and then I'll
And
go,
it's like,
and then it goes,
yeah, it's like,
just saying.
Yeah, that's real.
Put it on there again.
extra luck.
Okay, my final question. How long have you got, I'm just going to kind of go around the room. Just tell me real quick how long you've been here.
2 months.
2 months, okay.
4 years. 4 years.
2.5 years.
Years.
Almost 3.
Yeah.
Years, months, years?
We're the same.
2.5 months?
About a year and a half.
Almost 5 years.
7.
Yeah.
7.
Okay. So we have a really great cross-section. So I just want to ask, and I want you guys to be brutally honest, forget the fact that you have supervisors in here. Did you find this information helpful?
Yeah.
So the 2-monthers?
Not in here for almost 3 years.
Okay, I'm sorry. There was So helpful for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah? And the seasoned people?
Yeah.
Yes? Good, okay. So we've been telling everybody it's cost them a lot of money to send the 3 of us out here for a week, but this is the first opportunity we really had to do this, and we just want to make sure they're getting the bang for the buck, and we've had some good feedback, so I just want to make sure. What?
I didn't say anything.
All right. So anyway, if there's no other questions, I can't believe it. We actually ended.
If you guys end up having other questions,
Yes.
though, that maybe you didn't feel comfortable asking in this forum, email your supervisors. I know they're putting together like a list so that we can address. So, yeah, as questions come up, please email them, and they'll get them over to us.
I just want to tell you, I love Lupe.
Oh,
I've heard that before,
460.
I love her to death.
Okay, I'm going to pass that on. Hard.